Hello everyone and welcome to this great weekend of Derby. We are here in Floref, Namur, and we are here to give you the heads up of what happens here at the Skate Around tournament. My name is Knikmops.
And I'm Toxic Lady.
Yes, and we'll be your announcers for this game. We will now give you the rosters for the two teams that are playing. We have the Royal Swedish Army. I think I'm
Roller Derby.
Royal Swedish Roller Derby. Okay, that team, yeah, the Royal Army will probably be their A team.
Yeah.
And they are here to play against Namur, the home league, and I will give you their roster. So we have Pixie Knuckle Dust, Helsinki, Bella Bizarre, Slaya K, Grumpy Space Princess, Derby Spice, Pax, Tanther, that's a tongue twister there.
It is.
Lady Lovely Blocks, Glamazona, Bossa, and Muerta.
And for Namur Roller Girls, l'équipe A, nous avons Crevetor, Knappy, Brûle la Gomme, Ogara, T-Rex, Elliot, K ou K, Grumpy Up, Big Ace, Blue Velvet, Punchline, Los Angeles, Left 4 Dead, Pulp Eviction, Jackie, and Tinker.
Yes. So these two teams will have it out here in the very first game of this tournament. We'll have 4 games today, and then we'll have another beautiful derby day for you tomorrow. So I hope you stay with us for the entire weekend. For now, the hall here is kind of empty. We have all of the officials, NSOs, people for the live stream, all the volunteers here, but we don't have that many people for the audience yet.
The only people who are sitting in the bench for the audience are like the crew for the second NSO crew, who's just waiting for the second game.
Yes.
So I hope there's a lot of you out there, thanks to the magic of the internet.
Yeah, maybe some supporters for our Royal Army from Sweden.
Yes, hello to Sweden and Sweden fans.
Yes. I hope you are all watching. I think you are in the same time zone as us, so...
I have no idea.
I think...
I'm clueless about that.
Yeah, I'm just going to make an assumption and say that it is the same time zone. Oh my god, we're getting a light. I should have powdered my face. I don't have powder, but something you say.
Oui, ça va, oui.
Oh,
Ouais, on a un peu de lumière dans les yeux, ça va aller. We should just watch the game and ignore this
I will probably have
light.
like a burn in my eye from that light. But it will be fine as long as you people at home can see us properly.
And when you close your eyes, you can still see it, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm having that right now, so we'll see what happens at the end of the day.
So there's less than 20 seconds to Derby. I love this. The few minutes before the first game of a tournament, it's like everybody's getting ready. And like, okay, are we ready? We're ready. Oh, we still have to wait. But we're ready. But we still have to wait. So
yeah, I'm really. I'm also kind of curious on how this works at the bench of Namur, because they are the hosting team and playing the first game. I find that very incredible. If my home league does a game or organizes a tournament, we always say we don't play the first game. So yeah.
Well, there's 4 teams, right? Namur A, B, C, and the men's team. So
yeah.
I think there's plenty of crew.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So who do we have getting ready for the first jam?
Yeah. So we have.
Can you see the numbers?
Yeah, we have B Gaze standing at the.
For Namur as a jammer.
Yes.
And then number 030 for Royal Swedish Army, who just took the lead. Who's that girl?
Yeah.
Pixie Knuckle Dust just took the lead for the first game.
Yeah, beautiful line work there. She's incredibly fast on her toe stops, and
she calls it.
And she calls it off. So quick first lead for the Royal Army, and 3 points on the board. So we'll see how this happens.
Quick and safe.
Yes. So leaving nothing up to chance. On the jammer line now, we have 0-2-1 for Namur. Namur, that is Crevetor. And for the Royal Army, I can't really tell.
37 Derby Spice. I love a Spice Girl reference.
Yeah. Who doesn't? If you want to be my lover.
So
Crevetor is being recycled to the back, and we also have a little bit of a more of a push there for the Royal Army.
Very tight,
yes.
Very small pack.
The Jammers are really fighting for that lead position. Oh no, I think Crevetor is already lead, but she was recycled back, and so now she has to.
Oh, she just took the lead and was recycled just after.
That's always like a horrible moment in Derby.
Are you talking as a jammer, right?
Yeah, I have so much jammer experience. No points on the board, although Namur had the lead. I see some confusion there.
Yeah, I can't see who called it, but the action was very close.
Actually called it off.
Yeah.
So we still have no one in the box. I'm just wondering if me saying that out loud makes it like that.
Are you going to jinx it?
Yeah, I'm going to jinx it. But it's strong seeing that it's like the first game and all that. So maybe it will actually happen. So Brulagom is now facing 030 Pixie Knuckle Dust. So Pixie Knuckle Dust 1 and 2, so it seems, and then Brulagom, one of the jammers for
Namur.
And then I jinxed it. Multiplayer block there for one of the players of the Royal Army, and Brulagom takes the lead. Yes, strong defensive wall there by Namur at the front of the pack, but the defense for the Royal Army is also pretty tight. But the strong offense there played by 666 from Namur gave a lot of space
left for dead.
Yes,
666.
And another penalty.
And also two referees almost bumped into each other.
That's also
which is I like to see that as a nice side action to a roller derby game.
So we have a star pass, and then Brulagom called it off.
Yeah, she saw that coming miles away. She was just waiting for everybody to sweat the energy out and just calling it.
I'm also guessing she wanted to run the clock a little to get Pulp out of the box maybe, but she's still sitting, so that will probably not have happened anytime soon. 8-3 in favor of our home league, Namur.
This is the 4th jam of this first game. So we have number 4 jamming, Big Gaze jamming for Namur. And have you seen the number who's jamming for the Royal Army? Number 12. Bella Bizarre. And the Big Gaze is taking the lead.
And then the pack is all the way stretched out to the back, and the player for the Royal Swedish Army is recycled back, but she's through.
But she's through. Oh, another almost bumping into referees bumping into each other. Et nous avons un score avec Namur qui mène de 12-3 pour The Royal Army, les Suédoises. Un petit peu donc de prise de position par l'équipe qui nous accueille pour ce tournoi.
On the jammer line now we have Crevetor against Derby Spice. And everyone was kind of piled up there next to each other. Quick lead for Crevetor by the outside line. And our jammer for the Royal Swedish Army is being recycled to the back.
Yeah.
Once again, she has the star in hand.
Did a star slash action.
Yes.
You're right. I think it's a very clean game from what we've seen these first few jams. I think all the players are really experienced and really being careful of what they are doing. We don't see any hands laying around for multiplayer blocks. I think it's very short jams. I think when you have very short jams, it's always an indication that the players know what they're doing.
Yes.
And there's a very strong strategy in place, and there's no room left for, okay, they scored some points because we forgot to call the jam.
Yeah, and we're seeing Pixie Knuckle Dust again on the jammer line against Brûle la Gomme. And we'll see what happens now. It's exciting.
Yeah, oh, I love when the pack is going backwards and behind the jammer line.
Yes. Beautiful done there by Brûle la Gomme, taking her time, really using that momentum and that little bit of confusion in the beginning.
And we have a cutting that whistle on the jammer from the Royal Army. So we have a power jam in favor of Namur. With all the blockers otherwise on the track, it's always a good assist moment.
Yes.
And action. Ooh.
Strong offense there by... I love it when the offense kind of waits for the jammer and it's actually perfectly timed. That's the offense I love the most. And it works. It works every time. So they work together with their jammer, giving space.
Yes, and they just gave us a very nice example of two different strategies, two different signs. Pretty nicely executed, but the blockers from Sweden were quite ready for the second assist. And they kind of counter it a bit.
Yeah, Pulp is doing her job very well, being on the jammer at all times. I really have a derby crush for Pulp. She hasn't played for a year, but it's nothing that you can't tell in any way. She's like
already.
Yeah, she's like back on her normal level. Like she's so amazing.
So we have 12 points that are scored. Oh, sorry, 15 scored by Namur on this jam alone, which gives them a nice lead of 31 points for 3 for the Royal Army.
Yes, and besides the first jam, the teams from Sweden were not able to score any more points. So we'll see how this happens and if they can change that in the next jam.
We have number 84, Glamazona, jamming for the first time for the Royal Army against number 4, Big Ace for Namur, who takes the lead very quickly after the pivot line.
So we have the defense from Namur doing their job very well, being able to recycle their jammer a little bit back, but she's through. And now at the back of the pack, we have some action there, scoring pass for Namur. We're running the clock a little.
Yeah, well, the pivot for Namur is sent to the penalty box and the jammers are running.
So no quick calls made there. 5-4 in favor of Namur on that last jam. So more points on the board for the Royal Swedish.
Army.
Yes, I'm really having trouble because both of the words have royal in them, and then I struggle, and then I don't know what to say. But I will read from my paper and say Royal Swedish Roller Derby. Or
still have the flag over there.
But it has both of it. It has royal. I don't know why it confuses me, but it confuses me very much.
And we have the number 37 jamming for the Royal Army, Derby Spy, who took the lead quite early in the jam. While the Namur jammer is still, and she's through the pack. And she seems to have a problem with her elbow.
No, I'm thinking she wanted to indicate that the others are doing forearms. But we don't know. Those kinds of things can feel worse than they actually are or seem for the refs. So I'm always saying the refs are always right.
Yeah, that's what you always should say.
That's true. And then think something else. And then there's a lot of defensive work there done in the pack. The jammers are really giving it their all, making sure they can push through. 4 points on the board for Namur, but also 4 points on the board for the Royal Army. Derby Spice having a little bit more of a breath there to skate just a little bit faster.
And Namur, the jammer from Namur, tried to call it, but she doesn't have the lead.
Oh, but it's another power jam. Jammer to the box. I cannot tell you which penalty she made, but she's in the box.
Yeah, I didn't see it either. So we're gonna have a 2-minute jam. Only 20 seconds left. That's our longest jam for this first game. We had very short jam with lead jammers who really knew how to and when to call it. So this is our first long jam.
Yes, and Namur is playing a defensive strategy or an offensive strategy to hold one player back so that the pack can be stretched out. But the defense for Sweden was so good that the no-pack situation took quite a long time to be called. We'll say that. So 47 on the board for Namur, and the Royal Army has 11. And on the jammer line now, we have number 12 for Namur, that's Brûle Lagom, and 030, that's Pixie Knuckle Dust. Ooh, some beautiful line work there.
And Brûle Lagom takes the lead shortly after the pivot line, while Pixie Knuckle Dust is still at the end of the pack. Very fast action from the blockers, from both teams. And is she through? And Brûle Lagom is struggling to make her first scoring pass. That is done now. 4 points.
Pixie Knuckle Dust moving to the front of the pack with the star in hand, getting some offense from her pivot, and then manages to get through. Brûle Lagom already on her second scoring pass, and then she calls it off. 8-0 in favor of Namur at the end of this jam.
We can tell you some statistics. So the Namur roller girls are currently rated 157 on the WFTDA statistic, while the Royal Army is ranked 288. So I think from this tournament, that's the... no, that's not. Nantes Derby girls are ranked 153. I'm having troubles with French, with English speaking numbers today.
Well, numbers are always hard.
But yeah, the Royal Army is actually the one that has the lowest rank from this whole tournament. And Namur doesn't have the highest rank. That was I was checking closely, but actually it's not who has the highest ranking of this tournament. While the fourth team is Leeds Roller Derby, that is ranked at 195.
Yes. In the past jam, it was the Royal Army who took the lead quite fast, but they did not manage to get everything out of it because the defense from Namur was working really hard and strongly. So it ended up in a 3-1 jam, point-wise. And now on the jammer line, we have Tinker. Yeah, she's jamming for the first time. Yeah,
that's what I was thinking. That's the first time we see her number. And taking the lead for the Royal Army is number 130, Pixie Knuckle Dust, one of their jammers that they've been using quite often on this first half game.
Tinker having a little bit of a struggle there with her jammer hat, almost bumping into one of her players. But she did manage to do quite well. And 1 point was scored for the Royal Army there at just at the end of that jam. Quick jam. 14 points on the board for the Royal Army, 58 in favor of Namur. And on the jammer line now, we have number 1-2 for the Royal Army, that is Bella Bizarre. And we have
also
Brûle
Lagom.
Yes.
And with two blockers from Royal Army sitting in the penalty box. It's a shorter wall that Brûle Lagom has in front of her, and she's through. Always easier when you're jamming, and that's... Yeah, you know, you don't have a wall of 4 people, but of 2.
Yeah, I'm just going to say it again. I'll probably jinx it, but it's a very clean game. So not that many penalties are called. This is the first time we see the beginning of a jam with only 2 blockers for one team on the track. And mostly we start with 4-4, which is the ideal situation to play in, and I know how hard it is from experience, how hard it is to keep your butt on the track, but I'm noticing that people are actually able to do it, so maybe it's something I should look for.
Number 37, Derby Spice, facing number 4, Big Age, jamming respectively for the Royal Army and Namur. And Namur takes the lead.
Very strong offense there, played by the Namur pivot Tinker, who actually really helped her jammer out there in the end of that first pass. Now she's kind of struggling, her jammer is kind of struggling in the back of the pack against that Swedish defense, and the jammer of the Royal Army is passed just in front of the pack, one by one, peeling all the blockers off.
And Derby Spice had made her initial pass, but as soon as she gets closer to the pack, the Namur jammer called it off, preventing her from scoring any points from the Royal Army.
Yes, so 3-1 and that last jam. So we don't have like full-on scoring passes for now, so no 4-1, but always 3-1 or 2-3 or that kind of thing. So we'll see how that happens. We now have Crevetor against Pixie Knuckledust on the track. Crevetor moving back to gain some speed, but it is Pixie Knuckledust who actually manages to get the lead there just around the first corner. A little bit of a jump and bump there in the beginning of the corner.
And she calls it.
Yeah, no points were scored there at that jam. I'm also noticing that the Royal Army has, I'm not saying if I should say struggle, but a little bit of a struggle to, when they have lead, to actually manage to make the scoring pass happen.
Yeah, because in one of the jams previously, they were concentrating on scoring points, but they didn't call it off early enough. So Namur also scored some points. So it's true that the Royal Army doesn't have the lead quite often, and the Namur jammers are being very careful not to let them score any points when they have the lead. Just they call it off always on time.
We have Brûle la Gomme there with the lead, jamming against Glamazona for the Royal Army. I am actually wondering if Glamazona is like a RuPaul reference. I hope so. I hope so.
Well, she's tall. She's a tall player.
Yeah, so maybe that is why. She is still struggling on her initial pass, so no initial pass was made. Taking off the star seems to help. And Brûle la Gomme is already here with her second scoring pass, getting some offense there by Tinker, who cleans the outside line and manages to get her jammer through.
And we had some star slash action. I don't know if Glamazona wanted to give the cover to her pivot, but her pivot was sent to the penalty box just at the moment they were close to one another. So I don't know if it was on purpose, it was a star slash, or she's just stuck at the back of the pack.
We have another penalty on the blockers for the Royal Army. It was a direction penalty called here in the corner. We had no initial pass for number 8-4 from the Royal Army, but I'm guessing Namur called it off because we have two blockers in the box, and we have 12-0 on the board
for this jam.
So now we will start with another small group for the Royal Army and a full blocking group for Namur. We have B-Gaze against number 37 for the Royal Army, who is in the back of the pack, but B-Gaze manages to get a lead there right in the front of the pack. Already.
Well, we have just one blocker sitting still for the Royal Army in the penalty box, and B-Gaze is making her first scoring pass through the pack.
Beautiful toe stop work there. And the jammer with a start stash manages to get through for the Royal Army. No pack is called. B-Gaze manages to get through, scoring once again the 4 points on that scoring pass, making it a 8-0 jam for Namur. That's 84 for Namur, 14 for the Royal Army.
And we still have 10 minutes to play for this first half game.
Yes. I'm lost for words.
Me too. We're just expecting something.
Yeah.
What's going to bring the next jam? What's going to bring to the game? We have number 021 jamming, the Crevetor jamming for Namur, but it's the Royal Army jammer, number 030, Pixie Knuckle Dust, who takes the lead. Will she manage to score some points without Namur getting closer? She's looking at her, yeah. The Swedish jammer was looking at the Namur jammer coming closer to the pack, and she was being recycled at the end of it. No opportunity to score some points without giving any other points to Namur. She calls it off very safely.
Yeah, and I saw the frustration on the face with Pixie Knuckle Dust again, also noticing that the scoring of the points when they have lead themselves is so much more difficult. I'm really wondering how that is and what that is, what that means really. Well,
number 37, Derby Spice, facing number 12, Brûle la Gomme for the Royal Army and for Namur respectively. With a blocker from Royal Army getting back on the track and trying to push her way.
Some recycling there done by number 03 from Namur, Knappi. And it is the Derby Spice who is in the front of the pack, battling the two Namur blockers. But it's Brûle la Gomme who takes the lead. It was not that quick of a lead, but the lead nonetheless is for Namur. And we have Derby Spice struggling there with the full momentum of the group from Namur. A little bit of a stumble there. And Brûle la Gomme, working on her first scoring pass, manages to pass through the inside line.
I think, yeah, okay. Yeah, little star stash on the, from Pixie Knuckle Dust. And she seems exhausted. I've just looked at her face while she was looking backwards. It seems that the Royal Army has only 2 or 3 players who are jamming, so it can be very exhausting for jammers if you are jamming every 2 jams and that there's not a lot of people on your team who can also jam. So we can understand that she's really getting tired.
It's great to see how Namur also manages to always send that one designated offense. They do a quick communication, and then you see one of the players being peeled off to go back and play the offense to really make sure that the jammers use as little of their energy as necessary. Although the struggle is real at this jam.
The struggle is real.
I don't know which scoring pass we're on. I'm thinking the second for Namur, but Brûle la Gomme is really fighting those blockers, and it seems very difficult to get through. But again, no initial pass is made by the Royal Army, and we have 7 points on the board for Namur, bringing it to 91 against 14. And we'll see if Namur manages to pass that 100 barrier by the end of the first half.
With a little more than 5 minutes left on the first half game, well, we cannot say it's impossible.
No, that's true. So 5 minutes on the board still.
With Pixie Knuckle Dust jamming against B-Gaze, if I'm not mistaken. B-Gaze took the lead quite early in the jam for Namur, while Pixie Knuckle Dust is being recycled at the end of the pack.
Yeah, she did a start stash, which seemed to work very well, but she took the lines, and boy, those blockers for Namur are very strong on the lines.
They do not let anything get through from the outside.
Yes. Another power jam in favor of Namur. Will this be the jam that they manage to get past that 100 barrier?
With Pixie Knuckle Dust being in the penalty box, sitting for a cutting.
The offense there really speed up the pack, making a no-pack situation happen, making it easier for B-Gaze to pass through those blockers. And again, they're holding the pack back with goading one of the players from Sweden. She will stand out, and Bigaze is left to struggle that 3-wall all by her lonesome.
Yes, and the blocker number 2 is waiting for her jammer to come back from the penalty box to enter quite strategically on the track. So she will have some Namur blockers on her rather than on her jammer.
Yeah. We have a out-of-play block there, but done by one of the blockers for Namur. Bigaze manages to get through and scoring those points, 4 more points on the board. 107 in favor of Namur, 14 for the Royal Swedish
Can
Roller
you
Derby.
read it? So is it, if I'm not mistaken, it's 16 points scored by Bigaze on this jam alone.
It was a power jam, so
Yeah, but it's still
impressive.
It's still impressive. We can do that.
yeah. Of course. 3 minutes still on the board for this first half, and we are looking at Crevetor against number 1-2 for the Royal Army. That is Bella Bizarre.
Is it the first time that she's... No, she's jammed before. At least once, but I can't remember if she jammed another time.
She's also quite a ferocious blocker. I've seen her do her job there too. So,
ooh, penalties are being whistled. What's going on? Oh. So the pivot from Namur and the jammer from Namur are both sent to the penalty box. So it's a power jump for the Royal Army. And Bella Bizarre is taking certainly advantage of it, and she's through.
Also in the advantage of being the lead. So this is the jam that they do score the points.
And, oh.
On the line again. Being kicked out on the line. Number 12 there struggling with the 3-wall for Namur, but beautiful offense there. All the way to the inside line.
Sorry, the jammer from Namur is back. I was sorry for interrupting.
No, that's okay.
I was so sad. I was, oh, she's back already.
Oh my God.
And yeah.
We have another penalty called for the Namur blockers. Maybe the end of the first half.
Yeah, they're saying call it. Yeah, you should call it if you don't want Namur to score any points. And I think Namur has scored some points.
Yeah, Crevetor really went for that 1 point.
Yeah.
It's 1-4 on the board. 4 points scored for, no, 8 points in total. Sorry. For the Royal Army, bringing their points to 22 against 108 for Namur.
And we have less than a minute and a half for this first home game already, with Brûle-la-Gomme jamming for Namur against number 37, Derby Spice jamming for the Royal Army. Very tight action on each group of blockers. And we have a no-pack. Do we have a no-pack?
No, just a little.
It was close, right?
It's really beautiful to see how Namur kind of plays around the offense for the Royal Army, making sure that no holes are made. And then Brûle-la-Gomme battling the last blocker there in the end, but getting the lead. Star stash by the Royal Army. Lots of offense and and a completed star pass to 111 Helsinki for the Royal Army. Brûle-la-Gomme on her scoring pass. Ooh, bit of a stumble and fall there.
And did the star pass occur before the pivot was through the pack? Because I was wondering if...
It happened right in the front of the pack, so the pivot...
She still had to do her initial pass, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It was the initial pass, and then the pivot went all the way around, and she scored the 2 points. So we have a 2-2 tie at the end of this jam. 2 for the Royal Army and 2 for Namur. And we're looking at the last jam of the first half, unless it takes less than 8 seconds, which I'm guessing it will not.
It can happen, you know, we've seen that happen.
We have
Bigaze and Pixie Knuckles jamming respectively for Namur and the Royal Army. And everybody looking expectantly at the group of referees who are gathered in the middle. Do we have a team timeout for Namur? An official review?
No, it's an official review, if I can see it correctly. The black on red is not that clear, and Even my glasses cannot read that very well.
Yeah, even with my glasses, my eyesight is terrible.
Yeah, well, at least there is 1 point
That is an
off
official review.
for the jam, so it's 2-1, so not 2-2, but 2-1, and we're just going right back at the game. Good.
Okay. And the crowd is gathering quite nicely in Floref. Ooh, very tight, big pack of 10 people.
Yeah, there was so many dancing around for which place will I take in the beginning, but it's B-Gaze who takes the lead, and it's Pixie Knuckle Dust again struggling against that 2 blockers for Namur. 3-wall back again. So beautiful how they do and manage to make that 3-wall always so perfectly, and then doing that defense, and then, oh my god, so many cool things.
Yes.
They
do have beautiful walls. we cannot deny that.
Yeah, it's true. And B-Gaze struggling for her first initial pass, but she's through, scoring the 4 points for her team. And Pixie Knuckle Dust starts stashing at the back of the pack, seeing if she manages to find a hole, but her pivot just went to the box. B-Gaze only up against 2 blockers. The struggle is not real for that one, and we're going to intermission.
Yes, we are. So we are arriving at 118 points for Namur and 23 for the Royal Army. So very strong lead for Namur for this first game, which was kind of expected if we concentrate on the rankings of these 2 teams. But we cannot say that the Swedish have really fought their way through this game. What do you think, Nick Mops?
I also agree, and I'm hoping for the second half they find a loophole into making their leads count, because they have quite a lot of lead, but they do not manage to score the points on their lead pass. So I'm hoping that for the second half they find the loophole and the place to actually make the most out of their league, their lead situation.
Well, in the last few jams, in the last 15 minutes, we have seen that they have changed a bit their strategy, trying to make better walls against the Namur jammers, who, even if they don't have the lead, still push through, and that's how the dynamic of these 2 teams have been for during this first half time. Yeah. But yes, let's have a look. Oh, I'm sorry, I just have to look at the player. There's a player from the Royal Army who's pushing a stroller on the track. It's very cute.
Yes, it is.
I don't know if you can see it, but it's very cute.
Okay,
and
so
we'll see each other.
We'll see each other very soon, and I'm hoping just go to the bathroom, drink a little, and then come back to us in the 13 minutes and 20 seconds intermission.
See you in a minute.
Go.
Everybody's well rested. There was a queue in the bathroom, so everybody had their bodily functions functioning well before the second half of this first game of this 2 days tournament, the Skate Around 3, here in Floref, Namur.
That almost sounded like a theme song.
Oh. Well, let's do one. Skate around, skate around, skate around, tournament 3. So everybody's not back exactly on their stand. I can't remember. Did we have any people in the penalty box when we left the game earlier?
I have no idea, but I do know that I see BetSmash there, standing at the line, and this is a big shout out to BetSmash, who's one of my favorite players for Namur, who is not playing this tournament due to I don't know what reason, but I miss you. Please come back as soon as possible, but not sooner than the doctor says, please. Yeah. In
a very reasonable health dealing way.
Yes, please.
Don't hurt your health, please. No. Never.
Your body is the most important vessel you will ever use in your life, so please be careful with it.
Yes. 1 minute to derby game. It's a little opportunity to say that we have two support for the Namur tournament. Alors nous avons INI qui est un refuge de chats et d'animaux où il y a certains des joueurs, des joueuses et peut-être des joueurs qui font du volontariat, et on soutient aussi Bruxelles qui est une association qui collecte des protections hygiéniques pour les femmes et qui les distribue. I'm sure you understood that perfectly.
I did, but I'm better at understanding French than actually talking French. So I kind of understood that also because we have a paper over here. But I'll translate very quickly. We have two projects that we really want to enlighten. It's Namur Roller Girls, who support two local initiatives here. That's INI, that's a local cat shelter where they sometimes volunteer, and Bruxelles, who collect and deliver menstrual protection for women in need. Like, we all can relate how that is important. So we have a collection box here. We have had that annually, and now we also you can get like support in any way. But it's a big shout out to those communities doing well, making the world a better place, one menstrual pad at a time.
And so we do have two blockers from the Royal Army sitting in the penalty box, while Breux-Lagomme and Derby Spice are jamming for the first half. Yes, the first half time. Breux-Lagomme taking the lead quite early after the pivot line.
Wow, beautiful offense there by Knappi, who pushed the two blockers from Sweden into the wall of Namur, and then making like a sweet, sweet line on the outside for Breux-Lagomme, who manages to score the 4 points without touching anyone. So in the second half, we'll also have some French commentary on what the game is like or what the game is doing.
Yes, we've seen, nous avons vu sur Facebook, il y a des personnes qui nous suivent et qui ne connaissent pas nécessairement les règles du roller derby. Donc quand nous parlons de jam, nous ne parlons pas de confiture, nous parlons de séquence de jeu, puisqu'une séquence de jeu en roller derby s'appelle une jam et dure entre quelques secondes jusqu'à 2 minutes, puisqu'une séquence de jeu peut être interrompue par l'attaquante qui est en tête, donc qui est lead jammeuse.
Yes. So for those who do not understand French, that was a complete and probably very good explanation on what it is to have a jam. So we don't talk about like jam to spread on your sandwich.
No jellies, no peanut butter here.
We talk about the different parts of the game, and the game is set up in different jams. So now we are starting to look. We're seeing the start of Jam 2, so the second small game within a game, and the quick lead for Pixie Knuckle Dust for the Royal Army from Stockholm. And Bigay is still struggling there.
Yes, I'm very excited. Can you see I'm excited? Because the Royal Army jammer took the lead and is making a scoring pass, and which is very exciting because that's the thing that they have trouble doing during the first halftime of the game. So we see some star slash or star pass from Namur. It's trying to be a star pass. It is right now. The Bigays had trouble to really giving the cover to her pivot. It is done now. Will the Swedish jammer call it off, or she's trying to score some more points?
Yes.
But
it's an interesting tactic to keep the game rolling when the pivot has the jammer cover on, because often, not always, but often the pivots are not as good as jammers as the jammers are themselves, and so it's an interesting strategy to keep the jam going, so you can,
and hoping that the pivot will be stuck behind your very faithful players who are blocking everyone. And it's a third scoring pass for Royal Swedish Army. It's very exciting because in this jam only, it's a fourth time they've scored a lot more points than they've scored during their first halftime. So I'm very excited. So we have 10 seconds left on this jam.
Was a bit of a nasty fall there by the jammer for Namur. She's a bit struggling there. And in the meantime, Pixie Knuckle Dust scores again 4 points, scoring the full of 20 points on this jam, which is an incredible score for the Royal Swedish Army, because they did manage to have a little bit of trouble with the scoring passes there in the first half, as was said already, but they doubled their score at the second jam.
In one jam!
Of the first half. This means business, people.
Yes, very impressive. So it leads us to a score of 133 for Namur and 43 for the Royal Army. We are very impressed.
We are. I already was, but now I'm
let's just
even more.
Underline it.
Yes. So we had a star pass in that last jam. I'll quickly explain for those who never seen anything like that. So our jammers, those are the people who score the points, wear a cover on their helmet with a star, so we know who is who and who is the jammer. And they get an assistant. I always say it's the jammer assistant. That's our pivot. They have a cover with a line on top. And when the struggle is real and the jammer in some way, shape or form does not manage to pass, or it is better for a strategical decision, she will pass the gem cover on to the pivot, magically turning the pivot into the jammer so that that pivot can now score points. And no, you are not allowed to give it back.
Petite traduction vite fait. Donc l'explication, c'est que donc les attaquantes, les jammeuses, ont la couverture, le bonnet avec l'étoile et peuvent le passer à une seule personne, une seule joueuse dans le reste de leur équipe. C'est la pivot qui possède une cover avec une ligne. Et une fois qu'on doit le donner dans des conditions strictes, à savoir qu'on doit donner main à main, on ne peut pas jeter la cover, et une fois qu'on l'a donné, on ne peut pas le récupérer. What happened just right now, Mick Mops?
So the two jammers were stuck behind each other, and Crevetor took advantage of that, taking a lead there. So the first jammer out of the pack is the lead jammer. She is in control, and now she is on her second scoring pass, because her first scoring pass went like super quick, just like this one. You blink your eyes and she's through. 4 points scored again for this scoring pass, bringing the total up to 8-0 for the Swedish Royal Army. The Swedish Royal Army is still struggling there with their initial pass. Their jammer took off her jam cover, and Crevetor already on her third scoring pass, pushing past those Swedish blockers and scoring again the 4 points.
And we have the pivot from the Royal Army who's getting, she was trying to get close to her jammer, but the jammer took the inside and went through the pack.
Crevetor again through the pack, calling it off. It's 4 successful scoring passes there, 16-0 in favor of our home league, Namur.
Very interesting how in the first few jams the Swedish had really tweaked their strategy and managed to score some points, but then Namur already countered their moves.
Already now the passes or the scoring the jams are much more higher scoring than they were in the first half.
Very
in the
true.
first half we had 2, 3, sometimes not the 4 complete points, 2 to 3 even a lot of the times. But now we already have a 20-point jam and a 16-point jam, which is in derby terms like winning the lottery.
Yeah, it's like two children who meet for the first time. They just start to play a little bit together, and then they get full on hands while playing in the mud. So I feel like it's a bit what's happened, you know. Oh, okay, I have the lead. Oh, let me cut it off, and you do it, and we do it, and it's very short. And now, okay, we know how to play now against one another. We know how you function. Do we have a timeout, a review? It's an official review, I think.
It's a timeout.
It's a timeout?
Because there's only one word in the red box. So I'm guessing it's a timeout. I cannot read it anyway. But
and I see the NSOing are talking to one another and adjusting between the inside and the penalty box.
Yeah, so a little bit of tweaking there done taking full advantage of this timeout. And we're back at it with, on the jammer line, Brûle Lagom and number 3.
Dobby Spice, 37.
You're better with the numbers and the names.
I'm starting to recognize them also.
You can now see how different those two jammers play. Brûle Lagom went for full force, completely pushing those blockers to the front of the pack, while we had the Swedish jammer more tiptoeing a way around, trying to see if she could break up the group by leading them out and then in. So it's a completely different strategy. For Brûle Lagom, it worked kind of better. We have a star stash for the Royal Swedish Army, and at the end she did manage to get through, but Brûle Lagom already on her 3rd scoring pass and some jammer-on-jammer action.
Which I love, always do.
Yeah, it's probably to run the time on the clock, to empty the box, since we have 2 players, 1 of each team in the box.
Yeah, and I've played on the same team as Brûle Lagom before, and she was very good as using us blockers to push her way through. She used me like several times, like she hid behind me because I'm larger than her, and she like pushed me and then, you know, slid just behind me and get to it. But it's a nice strategy when you're a jammer to use your teammates properly.
Sure, that's what we're there for. Another timeout, an official timeout called for giving some explanation. I'm thinking to the Royal Army coach? No, it's someone else. It's an NSO. No, it is the one. Okay, I'm confused.
I don't know as well. I don't know. Because the person is wearing grey, and I'm like, who's wearing grey?
Yeah, but she has the armbands on for indicating she's an alternate. So we are confused, that's for sure.
But I noticed, I've talked with some NSO before, and so I've heard that they have tablets.
Ooh,
yes, it's a very technological, very tech-savvy tournament this year, and they have tablets on the inside and also in the penalty box, which allows the penalty box manager and penalty box timer, who are timing the players, to have a look on which penalty the players who are sitting in front of them have committed and how many they have. And because if the players have more than 5 penalties, the color is yellow. So it's starting to, get a bit hot for them, because if everybody knows, maybe or maybe not online, when you reach the 7th penalty, quand on atteint la 7e faute, you are kicked out of the game. You are out. On doit sortir du track. Donc on doit enlever ses patins et sortir du track une fois qu'on a commis une 7e faute sur un match.
Yeah, it's a bit like having 2 yellow cards in soccer, for those who've seen soccer more than roller derby.
I'll take your word for it. Yeah. I don't know anything about soccer.
So when you have a penalty, you are escorted to, or you are asked to leave the track and sit in the penalty box.
Oh, that's when they yell and...
Yeah, that's when they yell, they blow their whistle, and they say, you go to the penalty box! And then you sit in a penalty box, and you sit there for 30 seconds, and then you are out, and you are ready to go. And as said before, you can only make 7. And then you are out. You are no longer allowed to play. So then you have to remove yourself from the track, which is something that's really important to look for when you have like a smaller group to play with. The Royal Army, for instance, are a much smaller size group than Namur. So they need all their players to be able to play. I'm not saying that Namur should play with a lot of penalties, but they have the luxury of having a lot more players than the Swedish team.
Very nice. Quick action of all the blockers. They were all standing in the front of the blockers, but they rush in front of the jammers very fast. And
Yes.
we have number 4, Big Ace jamming from Namur, who took the lead on this 5th jam of the 2nd period with Pixie Knuckle Dust, who did a very successful Star Slash, but still hadn't the lead. And the Namur jammer called it off.
Yes, for those watching for the very first time, you see all those people standing in the middle of the track. That is not the team that we're playing against. That are actually our referees. We have skating officials. They have the stripy T-shirts on, and we have the non-skating officials. They are mainly dressed in black.
Petite traduction en français, donc pour qu'un match de roller derby se déroule dans de bonnes conditions, il est nécessaire d'avoir des arbitres. Ce sont les personnes qui portent les vareuses à rayures que vous pouvez voir. Et il y a aussi des personnes qui sont arbitres sans patins, ce qu'on appelle les NSO, Non-Skating Officials, qui sont habillés en noir. Et c'est grâce à toutes ces personnes-là qu'un match de roller derby peut se dérouler. Sinon, ce n'est pas possible d'avoir un match.
Yes.
What just happened, Nick Mops, when I was explaining something?
Well, it was a quick jam, again, 4-0 in favor of Namur. And we had Crevetor, who took the quick lead. She's an extremely fast player. And then we had the player for the Royal Swedish Army in quick pursuit, being able to jump there by the inside line. Also on her scoring pass, but then Crevetor called it off, ending the jam with 4-0. Now jamming is number 12 for Namur, that's Brulagom, and number 37 for the Royal Swedish Army.
Derby Spice.
That's Derby Spice. We've seen these players before. We've seen how different they play. And it's Brulagom against taking the lead. She tends to push all the players out of play and then skating right past them. And then we had a little hop on the inside line by Derby Spice, and it is Derby Spice. It seems as if Derby Spice has the lead, but that is not the case. It was Brulagom who called off the jam after scoring 3 points to 0, bringing the total up for Namur to 170 and the Royal Swedish Army to 43.
Very nicely put, with all the referees still standing.
Thank God.
What's going on? I think, okay. There was some hesitation, so I don't know if we had some team timeout, but we don't. And we have Big Ace and Pixie Knuckle Dust jamming respectively for Namur and for the Royal Army, with Royal Army taking the lead. I'm always excited when that happens.
I see it. I hear it. Your excitement will give me tinnitus. That's not true. That's not true. And it's the scoring pass for the Royal Swedish Army, and they, just like in the first half, they have the tendency to get a little chaotic and not being able to score the full set of points. So bringing the total up for them to 3, but Namur swooping in quickly, taking the inside line and bringing their total up to 4. So it is actually a win for Namur in this jam, while the Royal Swedish Army had the lead. That makes me sad. It makes me really sad
too.
It's like my heart kind of breaks a little.
And we have Crevetor and Derby Spice jamming respectively for Namur and for the Royal Army, with the Namur jammer taking the lead very early on, while Derby Spice is still struggling to get through the pack with a little Star Slash. She took her cover off. Is it to confuse? Is it to give it to her pivot? We don't know, but while this happens, Crevetor is making her first scoring pass.
The recycling power of Namur in this game is incredible. They always manage to push that jammer out, skater all the way back. It's amazing to see, and it's not only exhausting for the jammer to have to do that once every time to go back and all of that, but it's also very mental on the jammers to see all that work they've done put into nothing because they are pushed out, and then they see them bridging out, and you're like, oh my god, I have to skate all the way back.
Yeah, and that's a strategy that Namur always had, right? To have the pack to stretch out behind the rest of the pack. They had it for years. Some other teams stopped doing this strategy, but I think that they've mastered it so well that it works for them.
And Pixie Knuckle Dust there with the quick lead, and then against our trusty Brûle-la-Gomme scoring pass there. Will they manage to have all the points?
She should call, but she doesn't.
She doesn't, but it's okay. They did have the 4 points on the board there. Brûle-la-Gomme on her first scoring pass with the Royal Army players there in the front. I'm guessing they want to score as many points as possible.
And the coach is telling her to call it, actually. Yep. So it was the coach from Royal Army earlier who's wearing a grey sweater, which confused us because Namur is wearing grey. Yeah, so that's what's confusing for us.
I will remember her now because we actually coordinated with the leopard skin motif. Yeah,
very nice detail. I haven't seen that.
Yeah, we texted earlier. That's why. So we have 4-7 on that last jam in favor of the Royal Army. They can actually really use those kinds of jams more.
And we have Bella Bizarre jamming for the 3rd time on this game for Royal Army, and she's facing the number 4 Big A's in Namur, who took the lead right now.
I'm seeing a cover on the track. I'm guessing it's the pivot cover for Namur. That's on the floor. And you
Does she know how she has to get it? Ooh.
No, I'm not sure.
It's always interesting. The pivot cover is here. A referee, oh, he's too nice. He's picking it up. I was like, yeah, you know.
Dangerous is like one of the nicest people. He actually is.
Just go get it yourself. I'm not nice.
Yes.
But I'm not a referee, so it's okay.
Yeah.
There's no impact on the game of how not nice I am. Timeout for Namur is being whistled right now. We have a minute to gather our thoughts.
To gather our thoughts.
Do we need to? I don't know. I feel.
I don't know if we need to. It's. Maybe I'll explain a little bit more about roller derby. In Belgium, we tend to play flat track roller derby, which is constructed with a track we make ourselves on the floor. In many places, or in some places, it is painted on the floor, but you cannot use that for a game, because when you play a game, the track has to be augmented a few inches so that you can actually feel it when you go past it with your skate. So we tend to have a rope underneath the track, and as you can see here, the track is made out of green tape, and underneath the tape we have the rope, and then we have people who fix the track.
Who we call track doctors.
Yes, and they are between each jam. They look and see where the action has been to see if the rope does not come out. Our track doctor now is controlling everything, seeing where it is, and then safely returning to the box in the middle.
Yes, because I was looking at her and all the players getting ready. I'm like, did the referee saw her that she was still having a look at it? Because we've seen some situation when the track doctor is fixing the track, but no ref had noticed and just whistled the jam, which is very dangerous for the track doctors.
And we have a power jam in favor of the Royal Army, and lead is still open. That is Crevetor with a cutting the track penalty there on the inside line on the first half. And then we have Derby Spice with the lead in a power jam situation. We'll see what happens.
Well, we still have all the players from Namur, all the very strong and very fast walls. So it's still lots of work for Derby Spice to go through all these 4 players. But she has some assists from her teammates. But
Namur is so quick with that recycling.
They are.
But it is a full scoring pass there for Derby Spice for the 0. And Crevetor back on the track. Still on her initial pass, so she has to first make this pass before she is able to score points. And she's through.
While Derby Spice is still struggling to get through the pack, and the coach from the Royal Army asked her to call it, which was very wise, while Crevetor was coming very closely to the pack. Which is not, it's not a bad, it's not a bad points. I think between Namur scoring at 188 and Royal Swedish Army at 60, there's nothing to be shameful about. I think that when you see the rankings of these two teams, the Swedish team is playing a very nice game and is defending them itself quite well. What's going on, Nick Mops?
Yes, well, Pixie Knuckledust took the lead there pretty quickly by the line, as we have seen her do a couple of times. And she called off the jam just now, scoring no points again, although she was lead. She jumped to the outside line, but was pushed out immediately by Namur, and keeping the score 0-0. It's one of those moments again in the game where the Royal Army actually manages to get lead, which happens quite a lot, but then does not manage to score all the points they need to keep up with the Namur team.
Very well put. Big-A's and Glamazona jamming respectively for Namur and for the Royal Army, with Big-A's taking the lead quite early on. Glamazona being recycled at the end of the pack. Very tight pack.
Yes. And Glamazona still struggling on her initial pass, but manages to get through. No lead for her, but she is on her way for her first scoring pass, while Big-A's is still in the pack, trying to fix that first scoring pass, scoring 4 points. Yes. We still have 11 minutes on the board for this second half, for this first game of this tournament. It's the third time the Skate Around tournament is being organized, and just like it has to be, it is a very international tournament with leagues coming all over. The Royal Army is a team from Stockholm who are now facing Namur, which is the home league here. The home league who is now lead with Crevetor, with the jammer hat on.
While 2 blockers, one for each team, are sitting in the penalty box right now, which does not prevent the other blockers to do the job properly. Very, very standing still walls in front of us right now.
Wow, beautiful done there by Namur. Just rolling around that Royal Army wall. The problem is when you have one person in the box, that is often the person who plays the offense. And when you have no offense, the jammer is kind of on his own to face that wall in the pack. And then they have to push, especially when they're both on their scoring passes. It's a bit of a struggle. Derby Spice, though, is still on her initial pass, if I'm not mistaken. She took the jammer hat off and is looking at her pivot number 93 to maybe do a star pass that is boss or bossy.
We just saw some very nice action from the Royal Army blockers who managed to recycle the Namur jammer at the end of the pack. And that pushed her to call it.
It was a successful star pass there for the Royal Army to Bossy, and 4-0 for a pretty long jam. 4-0 is not that big of a score, which we would think. So only 1 scoring pass for Namur, which is really kudos to the Royal Army's defense that did their job really, really good.
It did. Brûle la gomme against Pixie Knuckledust. And Pixie Knuckles took the lead quite early on.
Yeah, the dancing on the line really works for her better on the outside than it does on the inside, I've noticed. In the beginning, she did it a lot on the inside line, but now she did it on the inside line, and she did a cutting track time, which is really sad because she had the lead, but when she has a penalty, she loses her lead status.
But I've seen that just she took a cutting in front of a jump blocker from Namur, who very wisely had her hips very far behind, and so the jammer from Swedish Army saw her skates. The skates were in front and behind the Namur player, but her hips were not, and the hips do count in roller derby.
Yes, they're not the only thing that counts, but still.
Well, for cuttings, they do count the most.
Yeah, that's very. It's what we notice. Pixie Knuckledust back on the track and already on her scoring pass since she made a successful initial pass there. Brûle-la-Gomme on her second scoring pass. Not really harvesting as much as you would expect from a power jam situation. Bit of a struggle there. Strong defensive work by Namur, sending one offense on the brace wall. Pixie Knuckledust not having scored any points there.
A forearm being whistled to a Swedish player. And a misdirection to another Swedish player. We can feel that it's the end of the game, right? There's 7 minutes left and the players are tired, so the penalties are being whistled quite fast. What do you think, Nick Mops?
I also think that happens when the jam keeps on going and going and nothing really happens, so people get a little bit frustrated, like, oh, damn, I want to do this action and I want to do this action, and before you know it, it's also the end of the game, and then a long jam you tend to do a lot of directions, maybe are a little bit less cautious with your forearms, and all of a sudden you're in the penalty box.
Derby Spice and Big A's start jamming right now with Derby Spice taking the lead for the Royal Army, which I'm always get excited about.
Yes.
But followed very closely by Big A's, who also out of the pack.
Yes, good offensive job there by the people from the Royal Army, but it did cost them a penalty, leaving them with a micro situation with only one blocker in the pack. She gets help quite easily from the box. Derby Spice working on that scoring pass, but Bigay's just swoops.
She made her second. She made her second scoring pass. Nobody's telling her to call it, but she should have called it. Well, she could have called it.
Yes,
quite
but they are
early
trying
on
to empty the box.
Oh.
For sure.
And maybe they also are trying to score some points with 216 for Namur and 67 for the Royal Army, and 6 minutes left. They may be trying to reach out to score some more points. That may be it also.
For sure, and then the 4 points on the board are actually quite impressive if you think that it was such a penalty-heavy jam for the Royal Army. I'm really looking forward to see what they do next in this tournament, especially that because Namur is such a very strong opponent. They have obviously been training on strategizing because their strategy is very strong, and I'm thinking that that is the reason that Namur is taking the upper hand in this game for now.
And they're also home. It's always when you're a player and you're traveling in another place, in another country, you don't know how the ground is. Quand on est une joueuse ou un joueur et qu'on va jouer ailleurs que chez soi, tous les halls omnisports n'ont pas les mêmes revêtements au sol. Et donc c'est très très différent pour les patins. On ne freine pas de la même manière. On ne doit pas forcément mettre les mêmes roues selon la dureté du sol. Ça peut être très déstabilisant. Ici, les Namuroises sont chez elles. Elles connaissent le sol. Elles connaissent bien le cadre. Évidemment, elles n'ont pas besoin de temps d'adaptation.
Yes, that's true. Because people tend to forget, but that those roller skates we wear on the roller derby soil, they have wheels, and the wheels are very different for everyone. You can skate with a very hard wheel, so you are extremely slippery, or you can want to stick to the floor, and then you play with soft wheels. It's really for your personal preference. Quick lead there by Crevetor. The start from Namur was one for the books. If you want to rewatch that and train on it, do it. And then Crevetor on her first scoring pass. Pixie Knuckle Dust having a bit more of a struggle there with the Namur defense, but also on her scoring pass.
And oh, has she scored some points?
I'm guessing not.
She jumped,
yeah.
But no, because the whistle started to being whistled before she jumped and tried to score some very quick points.
I always love it when they apex jump. It looks so impressive. It is.
I think it's sometimes it's like a trick. It's like, hey, let's get some shout out from the crowd. Let's jump very high. So we have Brûle la Gomme jamming against Bella Bizarre, who is the third go-to jammer from the Royal Army, and nobody has taken the lead yet.
No, but Bella Bizarre had an encountering with Pulp, and then of course she was pushed out and being recycled back, but she is in the front of the pack, so she is in the best position now to actually score that lead pass, but she is being recycled. That famous Namur recycling, beautifully done again, and Brûle la Gomme
making you go backwards 10 meters behind.
Yes, but Brûle la Gomme is actually having a bit of issues with the strong Royal Army defense there in the front. She's waiting her shot, being extremely cautious and using that one blocker, as we said before,
yes,
to push her way through.
Yeah, that's her tactic. One of her tactics.
Yes. And she's through. Lead for Namur.
After 1 minute, sorry to interrupt, but after
that's
1
okay,
minute, it's always very impressive when you have the lead jammer taking the lead only 1 minute after the start of the jam. On a 2-minute jam, it's a huge amount of time. While this is going on, we have no point.
No.
I'm lost for words.
Yes, but
we have
two points were scored for Namur there in that last scoring pass, or in the first scoring pass of this jam. That's 2-0 in favor of Namur, bringing the total up to a beautiful 2-2-2 for Namur and 67 for the Royal Army. Almost 3 minutes still on the clock for this jam, and now we have an official timeout.
Oh, with the pivot from the Royal Army team being sent to the penalty box.
Probably a late call.
Probably. I don't know which penalty she was sent it for.
Yes, and a bit of a struggle there for the pivot line. So both of the teams tend to really enjoy that pivot line place right in front, probably because they can actually squeeze the other blockers really close to each other, and then they have to bump up against their wall, so you can play offense and defense at the same time as you are in the front. That's that's always a good position to be in. And for me, it seems that Namur really takes full advantage of that strategy when they are at the pivot line.
They really do. 3 minutes left only, so we are up for a few jams with Derby Spice and Big Ace jamming respectively for the Royal Army and for Namur Roller Girls behind the jamming line.
Yeah, so a very tight start of this jam, and Big Ace trying to push the Royal Army players against her own wall. But it was not necessary. She managed to play them apart and then pass them all by the outside line, being on her first scoring pass, while Derby Spice is struggling on that initial.
With Derby Spice being really stuck behind the Namur blockers. And she was waiting for her pivot to get back from the penalty box and really pretend to do a star pass, but she didn't. It was distraction enough for the Namur blockers to concentrate on the pivot, but it doesn't give her an opportunity to score anyhow.
Bigaze is off to the penalty box with a forearm penalty. She did manage to call off that jam, but it is an advantage for the team from Sweden because they will start with a power start.
Oh, power start.
Yes. 4 blockers on the track for Namur, 3 blockers on the track for the Royal Army. Yeah, a little bit of a false start there. And again, Namur with the recycling.
Always fast, always automatic,
yes.
Always efficient.
Yes. Pixie Knuckle Dust waiting for her offense, but that defense from Namur is super, super strong. And we already have the jammer for Namur standing upright, which means she has less than 10 seconds and she's off, which puts the focus back on defense for the Royal Army. And Pixie Knuckle Dust still struggling there, now in the back of the pack against that Namur defense. Lead for Namur, Bigaze, second time in a row with the lead.
While the pivot for Namur was being recycled at the end of the pack, I thought that there was a penalty being whistled, but nobody went to the penalty box.
A ghost penalty. And we have the jammer for the Royal Army still struggling on her first initial pass. Their star in hand, really looking to find a hole there in that beautiful, beautiful, beautiful defense.
Everybody's getting really tired. You can feel that the tripods were in place and do we have an injury?
Yes.
Yes, tripods were really strongly in place during the previous jams. And players were getting around. It's only 3 seconds left on the clock, and we have a player on the ground. So it's not. We can really feel when it's the end of the game. As you said before, players can be tired and frustrated. And well, when you're tired, you don't pay attention as well as you do in the start of a game. And it's always, you have to be careful of your own energy.
Yes. We'll see how this plays out, but maybe we'll talk a little bit more about the support that the Namur Roller Girls give to 2 local initiatives here. That is INI, that's a local cat shelter, where even some of our Namur players tend to volunteer amongst the little kitty cats of Namur. Some of them will probably have adopted a few, I'm guessing. And they also have Bruxelles, which is an initiative that collects and delivers menstrual protection to women in need, which we can all relate to, I'm guessing, in the roller derby community.
Yes, and I think it's each year for that's the 3rd edition of the skate around, and I think each year they collect menstrual protection, menstrual for women in need. We have the player who was on the ground getting back on her skates and back on her bench with only 3 seconds on the clock. I don't think that they will put her on the track for what could be the last jam of this game.
I'm guessing, unless it stops before 3 seconds, I'm guessing this is the last jam.
Who knows? Anything can happen today in Floref, Namur.
Yes. And we're seeing both teams lining up, full packs there. All the teams get 4 blockers on the track, which in the game, which has been not penalty heavy at all. I'm guessing we can say that now.
For the second half, it was a bit more heavy, right?
Yeah, there were a little bit more, but never that much, as you sometimes see in a derby game. We have Crevetor jamming up against number Derby Spice number 37 for the Royal Army. Crevetor again really fast out of that from that jam line and getting the lead even before she passes the pivot line, which is incredibly fast.
It is. It was very impressive to watch with a full everything so happening so fast. So many players on the track with a little cutting, I think, being whistled on the pivot from Namur,
which is Brûle la Gomme.
And with the number 80 for Glamazona having the jammer cover. So, did you see the star pass happen?
I did see the star pass happen right in the beginning. After the quick lead from Crevetor, who is already on her third scoring pass now, they managed to get like an extremely quick gem, star pass. All of a sudden lost for words. But they did not manage to get the full confusement there in Namur, and they were being recycled back to the pack, where they are still stuck at their initial pass, trying to do offense as much as possible. But it's a bit of a struggle there for Glamazona. And in the meantime, Crevetor on her fourth scoring pass, pushing against that wall from the Royal Army, taking the outside line. Beautiful toe-stop work there and passing by those blockers, bringing the total up to 16 points to 0, and still no initial pass for the Royal Army in this last jam of the period. Jam will be over soon.
Yes. We are waiting for the whistle, and it's very interesting because when we look at the prediction from the statistics from the flat tracks, it was said that it predicted that for every 55 points Namur scored, Royal Army will score 16, and it's actually very close to the last points that we are seeing here on the board, which is not yet the official score.
I'm really happy you are doing the math work, because I cannot in a million years say that looks a bit like this point.
Well, you know, we had wonderful notes from our announcer, THA, Dog Mistress, who is really giving us all the tools to work perfectly.
That's true, but
in
still,
the broadcast.
If you managed to actually count that up to these points.
No, I took out my phone. I took out my phone. I don't have, you know, I have
you
a
had
phone.
Magical math powers. And the final score for this first game is 252 for Namur and 67 for the Royal Army. This is the end of our first game of this tournament here. Both of the teams will be playing later today. Next game up is
Nantes Derby Girls versus Leeds Roller Derby, French against how do you say British or British?
Yes.
So very interesting. We had it's always, as you underscored before, very international games each year for the skater rounds. Only one Belgium team and everybody else from somewhere else. We are getting ready. Do we have anything to announce? I think that's it for the day.
That's it for this game. Please stick around for the next game that will be up in a few minutes.
Not a few minutes, actually, in an hour and a half.
In an hour and a half. So
you have time to go and have some lunch. That's what we are going to do as well. If you want to join us, well, if you're in Belgium, you still have time to drive here. You know, it's a small country. You have an hour and a half to drive here. So we are in the Floref, Belgium, in the official All Omnisport. We are very excited to see the next game. Let's tune in later.
Yes, see you later. I was Knip Mops.
And I'm Toxic Lady. See you in a bit.